At the crack of dawn, in a leafy suburb of Bombay, one man is wide awake, a prayer on his lips, reaching for the heavens.
Hashem Bohu Vaishta Basti, Usta Asti Usta Mayadasai, Vasta Hashem. Dada Naula Basta, but God wouldn't come.
This is the story of a little boy whose mom made him a pair of shorts that were a wee bit too long. So the little boy refused to go out and play and instead stayed at home and began reading up every single book of Western music that he could lay his hands on.
I'm going back to when I was about 8 years old. Why I'm telling you this is because there's a connection between reading and music, or both combined. It just happened that my mother had asked a tailor to make short pants for me, some 6 short pants for me. And when I went out to play with the boys, you see, this thing was about 2 inches below the knee. And they used to laugh, what sort of trousers are you wearing and all that, you know? So I felt very offended and all that. So I came back to mother. And I said that, please call the tailor again and tell him to do the thing. And now about the knee. Mummy refused. She explained to me why it was so, and I loved my mother, and I accepted her expression. But I said, I'm not going out to play anymore. I'm going to sit at home and read. And there I had my first idea of the names of composers. Up to then I didn't know. When I was 8 years old, all that. So that was the first of I came to know Mozart and Beethoven and all that sort of thing. And one thing stuck in my mind, a phrase. The 9 symphonies of Beethoven are the spinal column of the orchestral repertoire. That stuck in my mind. See, that's how it happened, you know. So that's how reading and music came together. Yes.
Britannia still ruled the waves, even if somewhat choppily. Mumbai was still Bombay. Homi Dastoor's journey of wonderment was well on its way.
I spent months in one petite library in the Fort area. Then I spent many more months in the American library. Now, our community, the Parsi community, is a very small community. And many of us are quite eccentrics, you see. So this lady at the American used to watch me. She must have come across many eccentric Parsis before also, but this was a new one on her, that he comes, takes a book, reads it, and copies down. Takes the book, reads it, copies down. So one day she couldn't hold herself much. So after about 3 weeks, she came over to me and said, I'm so pleased to know that you're making such good use of one of our books. I would like to know, have you now come to an end? I said, Madam, I'm just starting. She said, oh God, it's like that. But then why don't you buy a book? I said, Madam, I've got no money. You know, I was a collegian. Yes. I learned by my own efforts. I learned by speaking to people and all that. That's how you go on, you know. Yeah. And that for 70 years, I listened to music. I am now speaking of something that was about 60 years ago. We did not have at public functions recorded music. It used to be live bands. There would be a pianist, there would be an accordionist, and there would be one violinist. And most important, every little, whether they were just small things like this or more elaborate, had to have a female crooner. That was good publicity.
The magic of the violin and the power of Chashka Haifetz impacted Homi Dastoor deeply.
His father was his first teacher. Gave his first public concert at the age of 11. And it was such a sensation that Fritz Kreisler, the previous biggest violinist, went back to his colleagues and said, "We might as well break our fiddles across our knees." Such was the impact that Haifetz made. Haifetz was very fond of traveling all over the world when he was a young man. And he came to Bombay twice, in 1920 and in 1923. I was born in 24. Anyway, at that time, in 1920, the general manager of our Taj Mahal hotel here was a Parsi gentleman called Mr. Faramrose. And because of Mr. Faramrose, we have his signature of that time.
The great composers obsessed him. In Beethoven, he saw the Greek god Janus.
He was shown in statues as looking back at the year that had just gone and looking further to the year that was just started. Beethoven is like that. One foot in classical music, one foot on romantic music. In the first performance of his Ninth Symphony, where at the end there is vocal, when the symphony ended, there was a tremendous ovation, standing ovation for Beethoven. He was stood there. He was still conducting the thing in his own mind. Then one of the singers turned him round to see the applause. He couldn't hear the applause. To see the applause. It was so pathetic. He cried and left the thing. That was his last public appearance. Imagine. Standing ovation from him, and he had to be told how to see the thing. Pathetic. That's it. This is the great Mozart. Science has not been able to give a convincing reply as to the phenomenal memory that he had, except to say that he was born many, many millions of years ahead of his time. But that is not a convincing reply. Chopin. No one knew the piano as Chopin did, the god of the piano. His territory was small forms, like the ballets, the nocturnes, the waltzes, and all that sort of thing, in which he excelled. Most of the composers were poor. When a friend visited Mozart one day at his home, he found Mozart and his wife dancing in the hall. So Mozart said, "We have no money to get the fireplace working. So we got to, dance to keep warm." He died in a pauper's grave. And no one could identify later on, even the men who are in that faith, looking after all the graves, couldn't say where he was buried. So that wonderful things that you see commemorating is empty. It has no ashes, nothing. It's red. Schubert, he was so poor that sometimes he didn't have money for even his dinner. So he used to go out in the streets of Vienna and play the violin to earn those few things for his dinner that day. He was also one of the great composers who died young, the most, yes. He was such a short life. And his beloved was Beethoven. Beethoven's funeral. 20,000 people attended his funeral. For those times, 20,000 is quite a lot. Troops had to be called in to see that everything was orderly. And the cream of Vienna society and the greatest artists of those days vied with each other to carry his coffin. And Beethoven's grave, there is one huge marble slab. There is no date on that grave when he was born, no date when he died. There were no other things that they write, in graves. There was very corners, there was data, nothing. There was only one self-sufficient, magnificent word, Beethoven. Nothing else. This is a Beethoven violin concerto, my favorite piece of music, played also. This is played by a woman artist, very well known, violin.
Over the decades, Homi Dastoor made intensive notes, meticulously inscribing them in a series of journals that became treasure troves of information.
The thing which I heard that once of the 9 symphonies of Beethoven are the spinal column of the orchestral repertoire. You see, So that stuck in my mind all these years. And then when I went to this library and I opened this book, this was what I saw, the 9 symphonies of Beethoven. Such a happy choice, that one. You see, that is how it happened. This was all Beethoven. But I didn't stop there. I had read about the other composers. So then I started taking down all these things from Brahms and all that, you see. And each time, you see, I used to now, but these are piano concertos and these are all the symphonies, all that. I happened to speak to Meher and to my son, and they said, Daddy, all this is going to waste. Why don't you write a book and all that? That's how it started. So at the age of 90, I went back. I didn't know at any time, at all this time, that I would be called upon to again look up my manuscripts.
His book, Musical Journeys, begins with a foreword by none other than Zubin Mehta, who, in his words, says, "I salute Homi Dastoor." Critical acclaim followed. This was indeed a book of many splendored wisdom.
I quote Schumann saying that just as a religion needed a prophet, you see, music needed Bach. Every composer that followed Bach, whether it was Handel, Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven, Schubert, Schumann, whatever, Wagner, whatever, all of them said he was the greatest.
The book brought 1,000 memories alive. It was an emotional moment.
So at the time of our engagement, this is in between. This is May, less than 1 year in my wife's arms. And then the passage of time, and this is how we now look. I thought of you with love today, but that is nothing new. I thought of you yesterday, and days before that too. I think of you in silence. I often speak your name. All I have are your memories and your picture in a frame. Your memories are my keepsake, with which I will never part. God has you in His keeping. I have you in my heart.
It has been over 90 eventful years of passion, sharing, and wonderment. But amidst all this, that little boy whose shorts were just a wee bit too long never quite grew up.
Shall I start? Follow the words. Keep your sunny side up, up. Hide the side that gets blue. If you have 11 suns in a row, football teams make money, you know. Keep your sunny side up, up. Let your laughter come true. Stand up on your legs, be like 2 fried eggs. Keep your sunny side up. Okay? I'm so sorry, I'm out of breath.
That's okay.